This story is based on official reports and eyewitness accounts. And this is the story of US Airways Flight 1549. On the 15th of January 2009, even if no one was aware, that day was going to witness a significant event in terms of aviation history. At 2 p.m., the location was LaGuardia Airport in New York City, the most populous city in the United States. US Airways Flight 1549, operating under the call sign Cactus 1549, is getting ready for a flight to Seattle, with a scheduled layover in Charlotte. The flight, operated by an Airbus A320-200 with two turbofan engines, is preparing for pushback. The aircraft responsible for operating the flight is an Airbus A320-200 equipped with two turbofan engines. The 57-year-old pilot in command is Chesley, widely known as Captain Sully. A former fighter pilot, he transitioned to being an airline pilot after leaving the United States Air Force in 1980. Additionally, he is an experienced glider pilot and an expert in aviation safety. Throughout his career, he has accumulated nearly 20,000 flight hours, with 4,700 hours specifically in the Airbus A320. Sully's co-pilot for the flight is 49-year-old First Officer Jeffrey Skiles. He had significant flight experience compared to the average captain pilot. The first officer had over 15,000 hours of total flight experience, and this is his first time flying the Airbus A320 since becoming qualified to operate it. There were a total of 150 passengers on board, including one infant being held in their mother's lap, along with 5 crew members. Later, the crew got clearance to push back the aircraft.
Ground Cactus 1549, taxi please.
Cactus 1549, taxi Foxtrot Bravo, hold short echo. Just got to hold you for about 3 minutes for your intro to Charlotte.
Foxtrot Bravo, short echo, Cactus 1549.
This flight marked the final leg of a 4-day route for the crew, indicating that they were essentially heading home. The aircraft proceeded to taxi out for takeoff. Everything appeared to be completely normal. First Officer Skiles was designated as the pilot flying for that leg, responsible for actually operating the aircraft. Captain Sully, on the other hand, was handling the radios and performing the duties of pilot monitoring.
Cactus 1549, runway 4, cliff takeoff.
Cactus 1549 received clearance for takeoff on runway 04. The Airbus A320 initiated its takeoff roll from runway 04. First Officer Jeffrey executed a normal takeoff, and at approximately 700 feet, they switched communication from the tower controller at LaGuardia to the departure controller in the New York area.
Cactus 1549, contact no departure connect.
Good day. Cactus 1549, 700, climbing 5,000.
Cactus 1549, no departure to contact line, maintain 15,000.
Maintain 15,000, Cactus 1549.
At 1527, the captain reported birds. Just 1 second later, while flying at an altitude of 2,818 feet and approximately 4.5 miles northwest of LaGuardia, the aircraft collided with several Canada geese. The Canada goose is a large wild bird that can weigh up to about 8 pounds. During the certification of the Airbus A320 and CFM56 engines, they were tested to withstand bird strikes. However, the birds used for testing during certification were typically smaller, weighing around 2 to 2.5 pounds. Therefore, a Canada goose is significantly larger, almost 3 times the weight of the birds used in certification tests. Immediately following the bird strike, the fan and core speeds of both engines began to decrease. Upon realizing that both engines had shut down, the captain assumed control of the aircraft, while the first officer started working through the checklist for engine restart. Let's take a short break. We've put a lot of effort into this video, and if you find it useful and informative, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. Your support helps us bring you more content. Although the aircraft slowed down, it continued to climb for an additional 19 seconds, reaching an altitude of approximately 3,060 feet with an airspeed of about 185 knots. Afterward, the aircraft entered a glide descent, gradually accelerating to a speed of 210 knots. Losing their engines shortly after takeoff and with insufficient altitude for diversion, this was one of the pilot's most dire situations imaginable.
Cactus 1549, turn left heading 270.
Immediately after that, the captain instructs the first officer to retrieve the Quick Reference Handbook for a loss of thrust on both engines. Quick Reference Handbook is an aircraft technical document for pilots that contains all the procedures applicable for non-normal and emergency conditions. Simultaneously, the captain reports the emergency to the LaGuardia departure controller.
This is Cactus 1539, hit birds, we've lost thrust on both engines, returning back towards LaGuardia.
Okay, you need to return to LaGuardia. Turn left heading up 220.
220.
Upon learning about the emergency, the controller made arrangements to bring the plane back to its initial departure point, LaGuardia. Consequently, the departure of other planes that were already prepared for takeoff at the airport was delayed until the emergency US Airways plane could safely land. To communicate this, the departure unit briefly suspended the departures of the other planes by contacting the controller at the LaGuardia tower.
Tower, stop your departures. Got emergency returning. It's 1529. He bird strike. He lost all engine. He lost the thrust in the engines. He's returning immediately.
Cactus 1529. Which engines?
He lost thrust in both engines, he said.
Got it.
The first officer provided the captain with a checklist detailing the necessary actions to take in the event of both engine failures. Despite considering the option of reigniting the engines, they quickly realized that due to their current speed and altitude, it would not be feasible. In an effort to coordinate the most appropriate landing for the emergency aircraft, the tower controller reached out to them once more.
Cactus 1529. We can get it for you. Do you want to try to land 1013?
We're unable. We may end up in the Hudson.
The controller, skeptical of the captain's suggestion to land in the Hudson River, did not take it seriously and instead tried to direct the plane back to the runway.
Hi, Cactus 1549. It's going to be left traffic to runway 31.
Unable.
Okay, what do you need to land? Cactus 1549. Runway 4 is available if you want to make left traffic to runway 4.
I'm not sure we can make any runway. What's over to our right? Anything in New Jersey? Maybe Teterboro?
Okay, yeah, off your right side is Teterboro Airport. Do you want to try to go to Teterboro?
Yes.
At 1529, the captain makes an announcement over the public address system, saying, "This is the captain speaking. Prepare for impact."
Cactus 1529, turn right 280. You can land runway 1 at Teterboro.
We can't do it.
Okay, which runway would you like at Teterboro?
We're going to be in the Hudson.
I'm sorry, say again, Cactus?
The controller repeatedly questioned the captain about their intentions. Once they were certain that the engines would not restart, the captain instructed the first officer to choose the appropriate flap setting. With the airport surrounded by the city and buildings, landing in the river became the only option for the captain. At 1530, they executed that historic landing. At 1530, the aircraft successfully landed on the surface of the Hudson River. Within moments of the landing, the captain opened the cockpit door and immediately ordered an evacuation. The crew efficiently guided the passengers to exit through the 4 over-wing window exits and onto an inflatable slide deployed from the front right door. Passengers took refuge on the wings of the plane for safety. The photos on the screen show the situation of the passengers in a simple way. Concurrently, water started entering the aircraft through a hole in the fuselage and opened cargo doors. After confirming the cabin was empty, Sully personally conducted 2 walk-throughs. The air temperature was around 19 degrees Fahrenheit, while the water temperature was approximately 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Some evacuees waited for rescue, standing knee-deep in water on the partially submerged slides, and many were wearing life vests. Some individuals positioned themselves on the wings, while others, concerned about a potential explosion, chose to swim away from the plane. All occupants on board were successfully evacuated from the airplane and promptly rescued by local responders. Captain Sully skillfully landed the aircraft near boats, which greatly aided in the rescue operation. Within minutes, ferries arrived at the scene and started assisting in the transfer of individuals to safety. The last person was successfully rescued from the plane at 3:55 p.m. Out of all the passengers and crew, there were 5 serious injuries. However, everyone, including all 155 passengers, survived. The initial evaluation by the National Transportation Safety Board indicating that the plane had lost thrust due to a bird strike was confirmed through the analysis of the cockpit voice and flight data recorders. The NTSB conducted simulations using flight simulators to assess the possibility of the flight returning safely to LaGuardia or diverting to Teterboro. Only 7 out of 13 simulated returns to LaGuardia were successful, and only 1 out of 2 to Teterboro. The NTSB report criticized these simulations as unrealistic, as they did not consider real-world factors such as the time delay required to recognize the bird strike and make decisions accordingly. In a further simulation where a 35-second delay was introduced to account for those factors, the aircraft crashed. After thorough investigation and analysis, the board ultimately concluded that Sully had made the correct decision, On May 4, 2010, the NTSB issued its final report, stating that the probable cause was the engines ingesting large birds, resulting in a significant loss of thrust. The report credited the successful outcome to the good decision-making and teamwork of the cockpit crew, the A320 certification for overwater operations, the flight crew's performance during the evacuation, and the presence of nearby working vessels. Factors like good visibility and the prompt response from ferry operators and emergency responders also played a role. The ditching was praised as the most successful in aviation history by an NTSB board member. Sully and the crew received praise from the mayor of New York City, the governor of New York State, and President George Bush. They were honored with the rare and esteemed Master's Medal by the Guild of Air Pilots and Air Navigators for their remarkable aviation achievement. After a remarkable career spanning 30 years with US Airways and its predecessor, Pacific Southwest Airlines, Sully retired on March 3, 2010. In 2010, the damaged plane was acquired by the Carolinas Aviation Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina.